Okay, so this video is about the Peavey 5150, which we've got modelled in the Helix, and I think it's probably fair to say that this is one of those amps which is probably not the most well loved amp in the Helix world. Having played a 5150 combo in real life, I can sort of see why. It's not necessarily the most kind of well behaved amp. It's got quite a lot of sizzle in real life, a lot of volume, and weighs more than a horse. Shout out to Jim. In this video I just wanted to look at some of the kind of points in the manual and kind of get some idea for how we could dial this thing in if it's not doing what we want. So first of all, cab choices. Now the real Peavey 5150 had its own kind of Sheffield speakers. I don't know exactly what those are. It doesn't seem like they're a brand that are particularly well recognised any longer, but I think in the metal world V30s in general go down well. So I might use a dual cab. I'm using the 4x12 Cali V30 with the ribbon mic because there's a lot of kind of high-end presence with this amp, and I've also got the 1x12 lead 80 which I believe would be a Celestian kind of black shadow type speaker, which is voiced a little darker, and that's a 409 dynamic I'm using there. Early reflection up to 20%. I'm not using the high cut yet. And then I'm doing my typical EQ heft thing, just to make it feel like there's a bit more air moving. And then this is the amp with stock settings pulled up. So I feel like it's kind of characterised as a fairly tight, sort of sizzly distortion sound. It's quite sort of metallic-ish. It's just got, you know, a lot of kind of tightness to it, and obviously a lot of gain. So in the manual and in the real amp you have a lead pre and post gain, so it's actually two controls. In the amp here that we've got modelled, we've only got this drive, but the manual does say to start with that drive kind of lower down, and let's kind of see. It says to start in the 0 to 2 range, which is interesting. So we'll start on 1. So I'm going to guess if we hit that with a tube screamer, that's with no gain on the tube screamer. If we add a bit of gain, we can do some things with that. So I'll take that back down to 0 as it was. More of like the metal kind of way that people would run the thing. So what else have we got? On the real amp we've got this resonance control. So this controls like our low end, and I think, you know, generally in your bedroom or with headphones you're going to want that to kind of give you some of that low end body, which I think people really like in studio monitors anyway. So I think that's one of the most important controls on the 5150 in terms of making it feel more like you're playing into an amp where there's a bit more kind of low end moving around the room. So I would turn that up personally. And then obviously we got, you know, the drive can go beyond and crazy amounts of gain really. Then with our tube screamer, So has a lot of kind of chunk, and as you turn that gain up, definitely that response gets a little bit looser. Now I'm going to take things back to kind of our midway point, as that's kind of always a good place to start from. So I'll take the drive back down to 5, and we can, I think the tone stacks post. So yeah, you can be kind of liberal with these controls. And they don't get too over the top because they're post gain, not pre gain like a mezzo. It's got a kind of scoop sound to me in some ways, so for me I think I would push the mids a bit, and definitely has plenty of treble. Again, so similar to some other amps, I might experiment with dropping the treble and then pushing the presence, or bringing the presence down. Then some other controls that might be valid for you with this amp. We got this bias control, so we could bias it a little bit colder, and that sort of tames the amp a little bit. So you can make it behave a little bit more reasonably, maybe, if it's a little bit too fire breathing-y for you. So that bias, I've turned that down to 0 there. So then the other thing that I might do, if I was to try and turn this to a kind of lead tone, I would probably jump up the mids for a kind of mid boost. And then I might also consider maybe bringing in a high cut, because I think things are a little bit kind of fizzy there. So the high cut I might bring down to sort of 4 for my lead tone. Let's just see how that works for us. And then also I'll chuck on a delay, just because it seems like the appropriate thing to do. And I guess the nice thing about this is it's got plenty of gain for kind of all genres, really. And then we've got a lead rhythm. So yeah, if you want a bit of a tighter response, don't be afraid to maybe take this drive down a little bit lower than you're expecting, and maybe hit it harder with a bit of gain at the front end. But yeah, I think people are used to hearing a 5150 double tracked, so that might be something worth experimenting with. But I think maybe it's a little bit of an misunderstood amp. So I would suggest experimenting with those bias settings, and I think you'll find probably you might be able to get a little bit closer to what you're hoping for. Also the sag, you could turn that down for a tighter response. But yeah, that's a little run through of the 5150. Hopefully that was a fun video. I'll put together an intro now with those tones, and you'll be able to grab this in the folder. Feel free to like and subscribe. Cheers.